Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to open we have 3 public hearings tonight. So I'd like to open the first public hearing, which is, I'll read the resolution. It's a public hearing on a resolution to amend City Code Chapter 196, Article 7, persons with disabilities and limited income tax exemption. And just to give you a little context, the assessor came to me and explained that the income threshold that we have, you'll see there's another public hearing after this, for people with disabilities and seniors is low, and that we could consider raising it to give more people a break on their taxes. So I forwarded that to the Audit and Finance Committee, and they considered that proposal and looked favorably upon it. I'll ask Councilman Donahue to talk about that.
Yeah, a few months ago, we were presented with an opportunity to raise the income threshold. It was at $17,500, which is it didn't keep up with inflation, so we raised it to about $37,500.
It's also to be kept in keeping with what the county offers and county taxes.
Yes.
We were substantially below.
Yes. So we thought it would be a good, and it had not been adjusted in many years for inflation. And, you know, there are some people that really could, senior citizens and people with disabilities that could really benefit from this. And we all thought on the Audit and Finance that it was a no-brainer that we should raise the income threshold quite a bit. So.
Thank you. So I want to thank our assessor, Susan Beckett, and also Dan, Bob Landry, and Ben Lockamore on that committee and looked at that. So we'll leave the public hearing open for a few minutes. If anybody wants to address us related to that specific topic, you're welcome to come up. We have to leave the public hearings open for a certain amount of minutes, which is why we're all just sitting here, just so you know.
Everyone knows what we want. We are polite.
All right, I will close the first public hearing, and the next public hearing is very similar. The first one was about people with disabilities. The second public hearing is for our senior citizens, and again, this is to raise the income threshold to give more people an opportunity to get a break on their taxes who are senior citizens. And I don't know if you want to comment further.
Yeah, it's pretty much, you know, it provides an opportunity for at-risk seniors on fixed incomes to, basically take advantage of maybe get a tax credit on their property taxes where they're not struggling to survive our oldest and elderly individuals. So,
Yeah.
kind of on the same lines as the first public hearing.
Does anyone wish to comment on that? Okay, we'll leave this open for a few minutes as well. Now we will go on to our third public hearing, which is a resolution to amend the city code 208 for vehicles and traffic. This is just to update our code to reflect, we've been trying to clean up the code to reflect what the law actually says. And we've made a couple changes. For example, there was a 10-minute only parking on Park Street that we eliminated, and now you can park there for 3 hours. There were 15-minute parking in front of City Hall. We changed that to 30 minutes for a couple of those spots to give people more time to do business. So this is just to clean up the code and reflect that. There were also a couple 10-minute parking spots on Glens Street that were not even in the code that had been there, and we changed those to 3 hour to give people more time. So that's what this is. Does anyone wish to comment on any of that? Okay, so I'll leave this open for a couple minutes. Oh, yes.
If I could briefly, Mayor, Matt Ford, my wife and I own 18 Exchange Street in Pine Ridge. Just on the, I know a lot of people here for the other than the fee, but the changes to chapter 208, just a couple of comments. One, I couldn't track the changes you're actually proposing. So I couldn't.
For this public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't like in bracketed, strike through, or underlined to actually see what you were changing. So I'm not looking for unnecessary delay, but if you could table it, leave the public hearing open so we can actually see that. I didn't have time to do a match changes, but my thought is that we can't really comment. I can figure it out. And the other was, I will reserve a comment to the public portion on the fees, but what I would submit is even under the parking law limitations, the fee schedule that you're proposing doesn't correlate to any time limit parking.
I would ask you to just reserve those comments.
I'm going to, but I think it deals with this section too. My thought is that if the city wants to limit parking in the lots to those time brackets, it would also need the legal effect of being in your vehicle and traffic parking limitations as well. So aside from the fee discussion, if that makes sense, the hours, there's nothing in the code right now that sets those hours for enforcement, if that makes sense. So I just offer that for your use.
Municipal lots are in a different section of the code.
Right.
But yeah, that's new.
Yeah.
So this doesn't deal with that at this point. But is there a resolution to vote on this tonight, the public hearing, or we're just having a public hearing? Yeah, so it's not even being voted on tonight anyway, this public hearing, so we'll make sure to publish the red line changes and then you'll have it. Again, this is just minor cleanup of the code to match what the law shows, and mostly it's to extend parking limits to longer amounts of time. Did you want to comment on that specifically?
Please, sorry, I've never been to a common council
Okay.
meeting before.
I just want to make it clear, we're not talking about the parking permit at this time. This is just about the changes to the code, but you're welcome to come up if you'd like to address us about that. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this open for another minute, and then we'll move on to our regular agenda. Call to order the regular Common Council meeting of July 28th, 2026. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ward 3 Councilman Dan.
For allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we start the public comment period, we have a couple guests that I'd like to invite up. I don't see one of them. Should we?
No.
We'll go ahead. Okay, so I'd like to invite Economic Development Director Jeff Flagg and also Spencer from Realize Brokers up. And I want to update the Common Council on the progress that we have been making towards finding some private partnership related to 36L. So I'll let Jeff take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor. I see there's a lot of people here that want to comment on the minutes, so I'll try and make this very brief. But this morning, the LDC had a meeting, and the purpose of that was to discuss a proposal, actually two proposals that have been given. One from Real Estate Brokers, this is one of the partners, Spencer Gray, his partner Keller, who's there this morning as well. As you know, we've been working diligently. The mayor and I have been talking to lots and lots of people over the course of the entire year. Quite frankly, trying to look for operators for both the ed and the space at 36 Elm that the city is leasing and the LDC is subleasing. As you know, from a few weeks ago, we did find an operator again on Russell. We're now working with Ned, and are really making some good progress and getting some activities there. In the meantime, the 36 Elm space, as you know, is a complement to that space, and what we're really trying to do is to find, how we've been trying to find partners that can run that as a complementary facility, but also have this community-minded facet of it that will sort of allow it to be what it's supposed to be, which is, in the end, a business incubator. And so, Nick and Spencer realized, came to us several weeks ago and had an idea for a business incubator. And so I'll let him talk very briefly about this, but the idea is that we're looking at them to set up, I guess for the want of a better term, we might call it sort of a mini mall, a little facility where small businesses can sort of get started at a relatively low cost, extraordinarily low, relatively speaking, and then as they grow out, they can sort of move up into permanent spaces. So I'll let him talk about that, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. So, and then Christina, who's going to go over the pharmacy restaurant, is actually looking to sort of manage the overall space for us. We're going to have a commercial kitchen in the space, so actually we're going to need some oversight beyond the sort of the facilities that we're going to run. So I'll let Spencer talk very briefly about his, and Christina can talk very briefly about what we're looking at.
Yeah, so Christina approached us, and essentially we're just looking to do like a business incubator market center for the space. It's a beautiful space, and we want to have essentially a little bit of retail, food vendors, and overall high level is just going to be a market center.
So just to clarify, the really cool thing about this is it'll serve a dual purpose. So it'll be a business incubator. So someone who has an idea can do kind of a proof of concept in this space and get some opportunity to test out their idea while creating a public marketplace so the community can come in and shop or grab food from these vendors.
Yes.
So that's what that idea is. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then additionally to that, I would be in charge of sort of that commercial kitchen space as well as the rear section of 36 Elm for event rentals. So anyone within the community that's looking for a space to rent that doesn't quite meet the size of the ed that already Dan had handled, kind of come through me and facilitate that, as well as a caterer that is looking to cater an event at the ed would rent that commercial kitchen space, kind of through my management process, if you will. Additionally, we had talked about putting in some storage space in the basement for the tenants that are there, so they have room for their bikes or their snowboards or whatever the case may be. Just utilizing that additional square footage in the basement that wouldn't be revenue generating and just finding a way to make room for the space as well.
Thank you. So the idea is to look at this as a three-part process. So we have Dan and Artie with the ed, and then Christina and Spencer and Nick with 36 Elm, and all three of those parties will work together to make that space operational in a way that is an opportunity for them and an opportunity for the city and its residents as well. So I just wanted the council to be updated because we talked about it at the LDC and IDA meetings.
Yeah, we'll be working on this over the course of the next several weeks or months and doing the thing out. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk to you about this most specifically. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will open the public comment period. I imagine that many of you, if not most of you, are here to talk about the parking permit. Before I open it to comment, I'd like to give you a little context and set a few ground rules for public comment for those of you who maybe haven't been to a council meeting before. So during public comment, the public is welcome to come up, state your name and your address, and let us know what it is you want to say. The public comment is limited to 3 minutes. It's not an exchange. We will listen to your comment, and then I ask the common council members to reserve your comments until we pull this for discussion, and then the Common Council can discuss their thoughts on this. So just a little background, because I want to make sure everybody fully understands what's happening, so that you can be informed. So first of all, the city already sells parking permits for these lots. That's not new. That's already happening. In our city code, it says that if all of the parking permits are sold, then the lots will be permit only. What we've been doing is only selling the lots to 90% capacity, so that 10% of the lots could still be open for public parking. The problem with that is that if you're a person who lives downtown and you paid the city for a parking permit, you may circle all the lots and never find a spot because people have parked there. And we don't really think that's fair to the people who purchase parking permits. So what we're trying to do is make it so that if you buy a permit, you are guaranteed a spot. In addition to that, the fees were set in 2009, so it's been almost 20 years since they've been reconsidered. One of the consequences to that, because the fees are so below market rate, is that there are entities who buy way more parking spots than they need, and then the people who need the parking spots can't buy them and are put on a waiting list. So they look into the parking lots and say, what do you mean I can't have a permit? There's all these empty spots. The problem is those spots are sold to people who are buying more spots than they need, and we think that if we correct the fee to reflect current market conditions, people will buy what they need. In addition to that, what we're trying to do is create more availability of permits and more parking spots for the people who need them. So previously you could only buy a permit for 24-hour use, but we have found that we have diversity in the kinds of people who need permits. Some people work downtown and live elsewhere, and so we're selling a daytime permit for that purpose. Some people only need night and weekend passes because they live downtown and they work elsewhere, so we're selling that kind of permit. And if somebody has odd hours or just wants to make sure that they can park whenever they want, we're also selling a 24-hour permit. So the idea is that the same spot may be able to serve two different customers, opening up more spaces. So what we're really trying to do is create more parking so that when you buy a parking permit, you're not buying a chance to find a spot, you're buying a spot that you can count on. So when you come home, you know you're going to find a spot, you're not going to circle. That's kind of the goal of what we're doing. Emily, Neal, and Megan Nolan, our city and deputy city clerks, are the ones who work on permits all day, and they helped us work on this proposal, and it went to the Audit and Finance Committee, chaired by Councilman Donahue, and they looked at comparable estimates for fees and vetted this process, and that's how we got here. So I wanted to give you that background first, and Emily, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything? Okay. All right, and now we will take public comment. You're welcome to come up one at a time.
Good evening. My name is Kate McCann. I live downtown and I have worked downtown, and I am now a business owner in the downtown area. I've written a poem for you this evening. I don't want to waste your time, but I think this shares the sentiment of many people who have been downtown for a long time. But before I start this, I'd like to say I appreciate your explanation, and it does make sense as you explain it, but allow my words to speak for themselves. Sure. This is an ode to Glens Falls parking. Hometown USA, where people live, dine, and play. Where parking is aplenty, as long as you pay. How much, you might ask? Well, let me tell you, friend. Is being downtown how you make means end? Downtown Glens Falls, where parking on the street isn't any better. $30 parking ticket, and we're expected to be like, whatever. Pay your parking tickets on time, or it's double the fee, and residents everywhere are wondering, Why me? $70 a month just for living downtown and going to work. And Mayor, I apologize for this next comment. Maybe I should be a stripper, close my business, and learn to twerk. What time is it? I'm sorry, I have to go move my car.
Okay. Would anyone else like to address the council? Thank you. Please come up.
My name is Madeline. I also live downtown. I've lived downtown for 2 years. I personally find issue with and I appreciate you addressing the issue of purchasing a permit but then not getting to the spot. I met with you this afternoon and we went over explaining the proposal for the different types of passes, which I think is a good idea. I wasn't aware of the prices of these passes until I went home and read the Chronicle about the information there because I don't really know. I don't have social media. I don't know where to find some of this information most of the time. At this rate, between the quarterly passes sort of overlapping and me not being able to get to the clerk's office during operating hours to get the new pass, I have paid for the pass and then for several parking tickets because of the in-between and the inability to purchase the annual pass. I hear what you're saying about having entities purchasing other spots, bulk spots. I would probably, before you charge $70 a month for a resident, which currently it works out to about $15 a month, jumping to 70 I feel like is very unrealistic for anyone making minimum wage, people who work or live downtown. I think that is a jarring jump and something that a lot of people can afford, and I think you may run into another issue where because people can't afford the permits, they will not purchase the permits, and then you have more clogging of the public lot where everyone is able to park, and it doesn't really solve the issue. I also think that if an entity is going to try to purchase bulk spaces, maybe certain pricing and increase in pricing is attributed to how many spaces you are purchasing for your business, and not so much on the individual person trying to park at their residence or at their work, especially since if we're going to be doing different types of passes, whereas now, to my understanding, it's the one pass and you can only give out so many, that if you can now give out a variety of passes, you'll be sort of getting the money from a few different kinds of passes for the same amount of space, in which case I understand what you're talking about, like market prices hasn't been updated, but from $15 to 70 is, I feel like, super unsustainable for most people, especially under the current economic conditions, and I don't think that it's going to go very smoothly